More medications, less health. Something's broken. Traditional medicine manages symptoms, but true healing addresses root cause. I'm Josh Rimini, pharmacist turned healer. At Beyond the Pills, we merge ancient wisdom with modern day science to inspire you through stories of transformation, practical trainings, and holistic healing. Join me and other practitioners as we guide you towards vibrant health, body, mind, and spirit, and move beyond symptom management into true healing. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Beyond the Pills. I am Josh Rimini, your host, pharmacist turned functional medicine provider turned healer. And today I have with me a very new friend, Dr. Anoop Kumar. How are you today doing?
Doing well, Josh. Good to see you.
Yeah, awesome. I'm going to read your bio because I think it's a really good one, and then we'll get right into it. So,
sure.
Dr. Anoop Kumar communicates a bold new vision of healing and healthcare based in a more comprehensive understanding of you as a whole human being. He is the co-founder and CEO of Numocore, a frontline emergency physician, and author of Michelangelo's Medicine. And Is This a Dream? After a near-death like experience in medical school, Dr. Kumar realized our current system does not know what health truly means and began to integrate a deeper understanding of consciousness with the existing medical knowledge. Along with his team, Dr. Kumar created the future of healthcare by elucidating the science of consciousness that connects medical science, wellness, and healing. I already know we're going to have a really good conversation here. Dr. Kumar is board certified in emergency medicine and holds a master's degree in management with a focus in health leadership. Visit him at numocore.com for webinars, courses, consultations, and deep explorations of the nature of consciousness that are all creating the future of healthcare. Welcome, Dr. Kumar.
Thank you, Josh. Good to see you. Good to be with everybody in the audience.
Yeah, so tell people a little bit about that, right? This is an emerging thing, and it's a very good theme in our revamp of this podcast. But like, you're talking medicine, consciousness, like the new healthcare. So tell the audience a little bit about who you are and what you're doing.
Well, I'm a guy who was raised in a very philosophical and spiritual tradition. My parents were deeply into Advaita Vedanta, which nowadays goes by the name of non-duality and non-dual consciousness. That was like my primary education. And by the time I went to medical school, I realized in school even earlier, but especially in medical school, you realize that we have very little understanding actually of a human being. Despite our incredibly detailed anatomical drawings, what we're seeing is just the physicalized aspect of a human being. And that is why our diagnoses are so incomplete and why people are generally not healing based on the treatments we're giving in allopathy. So the key to unlocking healing on a systemic scale is really understanding, experiencing the science of consciousness, the philosophy of consciousness, and what that means. And that's really what's going to take forward healthcare into its new form.
So talk a little bit about that, because, for me, like the consciousness explorer, I've been on this journey myself over the past maybe decade. So I kind of got it from a different perspective, right? You got it from it's like your origin, right? Like you it was innate in you because of your ancestral upbringing, right? The people that came through. So I love how that works. Talk to me a little bit about that, though, because you grew up that. Then you get plopped into medical school. So there's automatically some level of a conflict, right? Some level of because you're right. Like we talk about the body and the physical component of medicine, which we have a high degree of understanding, but it's not the whole picture. This is what we're talking about, right? So talk a little bit about your journey through medical school and kind of how, because you became an emergency medicine physician, right? There's not a whole lot of consciousness in your bubble, at least, not from what you practice, but like you're in trauma, right? You're working on physical trauma a lot. So talk to us a little bit about your journey. I'm curious, really.
So the conflict actually was not as, I mean, it peaked in medical school, but it starts in elementary school, you know? I mean, the thing is, as you go forward in the educational system from elementary to middle school to high school and beyond, initially there's not as much intellectual expectation from us, right? As kids, it's kind of like, well, do the right things, just turn in the homework, just fall in line, etc. Once you get to middle school, you really have to start understanding the knowledge more. And intellectually, you have to fall into the dominant thinking, which is that the physical world is primary. That is what the educational system teaches us. It teaches us philosophy in the name of science. It's not really science. It's pure philosophical opinion, which is that the physical world is primary, and you can understand the world well enough by studying those things out there and not really understanding yourself. That's the implicit teaching. By the time you get to high school, you really better fall in line, right? Otherwise, you're going to be failing your classes and you can't go on, and all of these implications are there. So it's really a cultural thing. And yes, for me, I was lucky that from the beginning, you know, once I started getting into school very early, I had this question of like, well, what is consciousness? What does that even mean? What is mind? What does that have to do with reality? What is the world out there? And that was always percolating within me, starting in elementary school going forward. So I never completely bought what I was taught in elementary, middle, and high school. It was always like hypothetical. It's like, that's interesting. That's how they think. I wonder, how does that gel with my questions? And it was always in this experimental phase. And by the time I got to medical school, it just peaked where I was like, I can't not talk about this anymore. You know, that's what happened. And that's when it spilled over, especially when I did my training in emergency medicine. I said, okay, that's it. Now I got to start writing. I got to start speaking as to what the constitution of a human being really is. If you're going to model somebody incompletely, as we do with our anatomical model of the human being as a bunch of balls and sticks, right? What we call atoms and molecular bonds are balls and sticks. You remember those ball and stick models that we all played with, right? It's insane that that's supposed to be you and me. Like, we actually believe that as educated people, we have been so brainwashed to believe that a ball and stick model can adequately represent Josh and all of his listeners and Anoop to the point that we can make like life-changing diagnoses and treatments based on that. I mean, the insanity of it is just, it's unspeakable, but that is what we believe. That's what dogma does. That's what uncritical thinking does. And so we can flip that whole thing around and say, well, we can question. You don't have to believe, but we can question. What is fundamental? Is consciousness fundamental? Is experience fundamental? Is mind fundamental? Or is the stuff that we call matter out there fundamental? And that's the beginning of a whole journey. And that, I think, when we undertake that journey, as we are teaching to do at Numocore, the entire face of healthcare will change. And I actually think it's a lot easier than we think it will be.
Ooh, I love that last part, like resonates, right? Is we try to make it all complicated, right? Like this whole complicated, like, yes, the human body is complicated, but guess what? It's also really simple because the body really does want to do what it's supposed to do. Right. We just have to give it the right tools. That's why I went down the rabbit hole of like, for me, it was the awakening didn't come from my upbringing. I was in the West world. I was in, learn the stuff, memorize the thing. Like, I loved how you brought it all the way into like when we're set up for failure in the beginning.
Yes.
Not because intelligence and knowledge of this stuff is important. It is important, but it's not the whole picture, right? How can we actually treat the body as a whole, even in functional medicine? That's why I went even further and I started consciousness and energy and working through that for myself, because even in functional medicine, they treat the body as a whole, but they're not treating it from the perspective of body, mind, spirit, and soul, right? Because you can't see that, right? But, you can't see the Wi-Fi signal, but we know it's there, right? We know these things are there. We just don't, we're moving through this age of intelligence into this more body-mind connection. But we talked about this earlier, right? We have to hear it from the science spice, right? So talk to these folks listening here. Talk a little bit about the science of consciousness, because I think people, it's not woo-woo, right? We're in a quantum component, right? You said like the matter, it's 99.9999% nothing. We're nothing. So what is that nothing, right? So talk to people about your way of saying, like, what's the science here? Because I think that's really important for our Western world brains.
Right. Well, you can think about, for example, when we talk about neuroplasticity, what does neuroplasticity mean? Or epigenetics, what does epigenetics mean?
And these are very new concepts, right? From the perspective of what we've been taught, right?
Right. They're relatively new, but they're relatively new for the last 100 years. They're not new when you go back millennia. These are as old as dirt.
I almost wanted to rephrase that. Nothing is new because it's all been there. But from our Western brains, neuroplasticity and quantum physics, like these things are, you could talk to the shaman 1,000 years ago and he's probably like, well, it's about time. We knew this. So talk to people about this stuff.
Right. And they will actually understand it experientially as opposed to just intellectually. That's the big difference.
100%.
So the idea is the whole thing comes down to what we call the mind-body connection.
Yeah.
And what exactly that mind-body connection is. And one thing that everyone should understand is that no anatomist in the history of humankind, no scientist in the history of humankind has ever found the line that divides the mind and the body. Nobody has found it. Everybody talks about the mind-body connection. But where is the line that divides the mind and the body? If I'm happy, you will see it in my body. You'll see it on my face. That's what a smile is, right? That's the happiness of the mind representing itself physically. If I'm sad, you'll see it in my body, right? In other words, you cannot find mind-body separation. You don't have to look for mind-body connection. There's no such thing as mind-body separation to begin with. And the whole reason we believe in that is because we believe that these are two things, right? That's implicitly taught in our educational system, right? Think about the cartoons you watched when it's like, you see the little guy and then you see the clouds coming up, which is the mind, and you have a thought, right? Which tells the brain, the light bulb, right? And that teaches you what as a kid? It's teaching you philosophy. The brain creates this kind of mind and this thought. But if there's no line between the two, could it be that even what we're thinking of ourselves as physically is itself a mental experience? Right? Think about the last dream you had. In that dream, you had a physical body. And everybody in that dream, including all the dream scientists, would agree 100% that yes, this is physical. But nobody asks, what in the world does the word physical mean? Nobody asks that, right? And so that dream body, which is absolutely 100% physical, the moment you wake up, you realize that it was 100% mental the whole time, right? All the scientists, all the philosophers, all the studies, everything they said notwithstanding, your intelligence has changed so much in that one instant. It is crystal clear to you that that was 100% mental. And that's what we're saying. What we're saying is that this mind-body connection is so deep and so powerful. When you go into it, you will see that it's not really a connection. It's one continuum. It's one flow. And so what we like to say is that the body is the pattern of the mind, right? Just like ice is a pattern of water, wind is a pattern of air. And similarly, the body is a pattern of the mind. And understanding this is the critical step to unlocking healing and transforming healthcare.
Ooh, I love that pattern, right? My word this year was right? It's not body or mind, right? It's not the body mind. I loved how you said there's no connection point, because we say that all the time, the mind body connection, the gut brain connection, right? Yeah. There's no connection. It's
right.
So that's why like the podcast, I reformed it is like, it's ancient timeless wisdom and modern science at the same time, right? So I loved how you weave that, just that thought, right? The pattern it becomes, right? The pattern of that it's like the downstream effect of, like you said, a smile. You see it. It's automatic and it's innate. Like you're happy. There's no, you got to feel the energy. Like you completely know. It's this no.
Exactly.
I
And
love
it's
that.
from
That's
that.
amazing.
Exactly. And it's from that we get these sciences of psychoneuroimmunology, of neuroplasticity, of epigenetics. What are all these fancy words saying? Epigenetics means on top of genetics. Genetics is the physical, on top of is the behavior, right? So again, it's mind, body. Psychoneuroimmunology. Neuro is the neurons. It's your neurological system, physical. Psycho is psyche, which is originally soul, now translated as mind. That's the mind body again, right? So psychoneuroimmunology, epigenetics, neuroplasticity, right? What is the neuro is the hard part. The plasticity is the changeable part based on what? Behavior, which is mind. So you see all of these words are nothing but the mind-body connection / mind-body problem in different forms. And the reason they work
at the same time, right? The word itself has both
it has both. And the reason it has both is not because we're connecting one to the other. It's because we are not recognizing that these are synonyms. It's one and the same thing going by different names. And that is why epigenetics is powerful. That is why the mind-body solution or the placebo effect is powerful. That's why
you go. That was it. That was the one I was going to use, because the pharmacist guy has, we're taught in pharmacy school the double-blind placebo-controlled studies, which every single doctor has to use to validate why they make a decision, which is funny because they off-label drugs all the time, but let's not go there. But the placebo effect, it's same thing. This is how I teach pharmacists nationwide when I speak. It's like, you guys all know what the placebo effect is. And they're like, yeah. And I was like, no, 30% of people get better off nothing. But now we know what nothing is, right? It's not, but pharma wants to wash it out because it's not the drug. They want to prove their drug works. And that thing is just idiopathic. It's not, we don't know, but this is what we're talking about today, right? We actually do know. We just have to put our awareness to the fact that it's innate within us to make the pharmacy of chemicals that we need in order to heal, right? It's that body, mind together, that neuroplasticity, right? I love the epigenetics reference you have. For people that don't understand this concept now, is about, I'd say 10% of our genes dictate our health. The 90% is what we control with our signals, right? Good stuff in, bad stuff out, epigenetics. And one of those lots of those signals are right here, right? The word stress. 80% of people go to the doctor because of the one word causing stress. All the downstream effects of dysfunction in the body, whether it's inflammation, blood sugar dysregulation, mood dysregulation, sleep dysregulation, all are created from this perceptual component that goes through. And I love it, puts that pattern in, which allows there is no connection, right? There's no connection between what happens from thought into chemistry. We haven't figured, we know the pathways, but we don't know. I love how we're going here. So that's amazing. That's awesome. Thank you for enlightening people in this space, because for me, it's like, oh, we only had about half of it, right? We learned half of what we've learned. I'm 49. I'm almost halfway done. And I'm only got half the battle, right? The other half is still yet to be aware. I'm like, holy, I have so much more to explore now. It's so fun, right? Yeah. So tell people a little bit about what so we talked about, let's call it the issue here, the problem, if you want to call it that, in healthcare. Now, how do we move that into where we are in the future present moment, right? We're at this cusp. We really are. You and I know, we're at this cusp of human consciousness and how it relates to how we treat medicine as a healing thing, right? A healing modality, not a cure. There's a very different, right? Not a symptom resolution thing, because we're only fixing chemistry. This is why the pharmacist in me says we need to get rid of 10 million unnecessary medicines, because we're going in the wrong direction here. So talk to us a little bit about your philosophy and how it's relating to where you are today and where we're going.
Well, I think where we are today is healthcare has given way to wellness, right? So healthcare, because of its insufficient model, because it looks at us primarily physically, it does some things well. I mean, I practice emergency medicine, right? We do some things very well. And there's a lot of things we don't do well because, like I said, we look at the human being very incompletely. And because we left that hole, wellness has come up, right? In the last couple decades, the wellness industry has boomed, and some estimates have it growing as twice as fast as the healthcare industry. But the issue is that healthcare doesn't understand wellness because wellness looks at the whole person and healthcare doesn't understand the whole human being. On the other hand, wellness is a little bit all over the place because in the wellness industry, there's so many things. Some of them are well-grounded, some of them are not. And so there's this inconsistency in the wellness industry. I think going forward, we're moving towards an actual health system. So we're going from healthcare, I care about health, but I don't really know what it is, to wellness, which is like, yes, it's about being well, but it's kind of all over the place, to now health, right? All we need is health, actually. Health actually means wholeness, right? Health has the word heal. Heal, the root is whole and wholeness. And if it's actually whole, then you're done, right? If you're whole, then it's done. So the whole reason wellness had to come along is because healthcare wasn't living up to its name of health. And so wellness, of course, had to come along. But again, that's been a little bit all over the place. So now we need an actual health system. And for that to happen, it is the science of consciousness that's going to take us forward. And what I'm saying now is that for all wellness practitioners who are listening, you are the future of healthcare. You are the new emerging health system. The new emerging health system is not brick and mortar. It's not buildings. We don't need to design new hospital systems, okay? What we need to do is understand that allopathy is the true complementary medicine. And primary care, primary medicine is yoga, is Ayurveda, is Chinese medicine, is Reiki, is energy medicine. It's your daily practice. It's what you do all the time. As we say at Numocore, it's nutrition, movement, connection, and rest. And when we recognize that this is primary, then we will see healing happen on an untold scale. And what we have to understand then is that it is the science of consciousness that connects wellness practitioners, and the current healthcare system. So that is what we're all about. If you're a wellness practitioner, I encourage you to check out our Science of Consciousness course because this is the future of healthcare and it's happening now.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, the root, right? The primary care. One of my mentors, Sachin, says that the doctor of the future is the patient, right? It's because that root, right? That centerpiece is, I make it simple, right? Like wellness made simple for me is lifestyle, right? Lifestyle medicine, diet, lifestyle, supplements, labs, but really it's, diet, exercise, sleep, rest, like all those things you said, those core pieces, community, relationships at the core, that's why I feel like we got it backwards, right? It's like, well, you have a dysfunction and now we're going to go this way. And it's like, I always go back to the simple. It's like, are you doing this first? Because everything, like you said, that's when you said is like, if we do this first, then the healing starts to unfold in this rapid way. I kind of think the 80-20 rules flipped, right? It's like we're 80% of this is really right here. And then 20% is let's go ologist and let's do this and let's do that. And let's treat this little pinky, I'm being facetious, but I love that. And I want to reframe what you said too, is it's not building more hospitals, right? I don't want it to be derogatory, but it's a sick care system. We focus on dis-ease, right? The disease that you have, when it's not a disease you have an imbalance, the imbalance of health, right? So I loved how you moved into that. It is health care, right? That health piece is whole, right? Wholeness. Yeah. So and the doctor of this new, we are the new healthcare system, the ones we have right now. It's not like we have to change our philosophies all the way into what we have to forget what we learned, but we have to put it into the face. So we have to flip it from the perspective of our awareness. I had a conversation on one of our episodes. This was interesting because he was in Canada and he's like, He went to the doctor. He was 42 years old or something. His cholesterol was through the roof. And his doctor said, you have we need to change your diet and your lifestyle. I'm giving you 3 months. And if you don't get this done, then we're going to put you on the meds. And I was like, I'm so honored that you had that doctor, right? The doctor says, let's do your lifestyle. Let's fix this first. This is your prescription.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we need to go a couple steps beyond that. I think nowadays most primary care doctors would say something like that. But the thing is, you have a whole ideology and system in society that's set up in the opposite direction, right? So in many places, eating the healthy food is not easy. You have these food deserts, or it's expensive. It's cheaper to get the 99-cent burger in a styrofoam box, than it is to get a healthier patty or your fruits and vegetables. So, and we doctors, frankly, we need to speak up about this, that has to be part of medicine. We need to speak up about it more and more. So I don't think it's enough to say, well, you got 3 months to do this, good luck.
Well,
I think it requires a much more systemic approach. I think starting in medical school from day one, we have to be taught about nutrition, movement, connection, and rest. Starting in school, elementary school, day one, we have to be talking about nutrition, movement, connection, and rest. And I think we doctors, all of us have to be advocates for that. Doctors, nurses, pharmacists, all of us have to be advocates for that. Then we can say, hey, you got all this. We got the whole lifestyle stuff. We have the education. We have the practice. We have the availability. Now you got 3 months. You really got to get this. Otherwise, we got to make some changes. But in absence of all that, just to say, well, you got 3 months. I mean, that's not good enough. We're not doing well enough. And it's not really fair even to a person to say, well, that's it. So we need to change the entire system.
Yeah, I love that because it is rooted around the first level conversations. Because in my experience, it was why, we didn't talk about big food or big pharma. Those are the big, hey, I used to say it's the pill for the ill approach, right? Just take the pill, you'll be fine. And what happens? Nothing. Symptom resolved is the goal? No, it's how do we get it to where you don't have to take medicine, right? And now it's the jab for the ill with Ozempic, right? It's like this whole new philosophy of you don't need to eat better. You don't need to do anything. The pill's going to it's already in our society to just understand that from those two perspectives. So I love how you're going not only from the doctor's perspective and that one-on-one connection that we have with our patients and the pharmacist's perspective of that, and having those deep-rooted conversations through our programming and things like that, because we've done that here for the last 10 years as well, is getting it in front in the whole it's a generational trauma too, right? We're not teaching it in schools. We're not teaching it from the very beginning of our children. I call my kids an organo baby experiment. They've had one sick visit between two of them in their whole life. They're 8 and 10. My girls, they're beautiful. It's because we've done those basics. Right. We focus there first before the rest of it.
Right.
So I love that you're putting that awareness.
Real healthcare. I think that's the real thing to understand is that healthcare is not a system that is a part of society. A true health system is your society. The health system is your home. The health system is your workplace. The health system is the path you take from home to your workplace. The health system then also will include the clinic. The health system will include your health coach or your health practitioner and your doctor and whoever it is. All this is the health. That's what's new now is we're extending the meaning. And healthcare has already done this. If you notice, hospital systems are now talking about wellness because they can't afford not to, right? Because the wellness industry is booming now. And healthcare has kind of realized its mistake or realizing its mistake. So now you'll have every hospital system talking about wellness, but they're not going to be offering programs to the extent that everybody's healing from disease, because then, they wouldn't be in business. Nor necessarily do they have to, because they have an acute care focus. But what we have to realize as the population is that, in a sense, we are big food. We are big pharma. With the choices that we are making, with what we are saying and what we are not saying, right? As long as we're saying the problem is somewhere else, then we're just setting up more tension and clashes, right? Sure, tension and clashes will happen. But as soon as I realize that, hey, I am big food because of what I'm choosing. Hey, I am big pharma because of what I'm choosing. Then I think we actually get to the solution, because the solution is each of us waking up, each of us making these choices, each of us speaking about this, each of us then forcing by our actions and our thoughts the health system to be the entire society. And that is the real healthcare reform. That's the real healthcare transition. And that when we do that, we will open up, because when you do nutrition, movement, connection, and rest, you're releasing toxicity, you're releasing inflammation, you're opening up, and your inner awareness, that consciousness comes to light. And that's what we're facilitating again by teaching the science of consciousness.
So let's expand on that. Because expansion is where we're at right now, because all of that is innate truth, right? There's nothing untrue about that, right? Food is medicine, food is connection. Those 4 pillars are exactly why, we go all the way back to blue zones. This is why people live to their 100, because that is the medicine. And I've been speaking this too for a very long time, especially from the pharmacist lens, and trying to convince pharmacists that the true pill here is not a pill. It's this whole component of rooted around that. So what are let's just expand on this, because the big piece you said, it is choice, right? It is the choices we make, I loved it. You are big food. You are big pharma. You make those choices every day. And I've gone through the whole neuroscience of change. I love a lot of this stuff, but talk to the person here listening, because it's not easy, right? It's in our minds, right? It's not easy to go, well, I got to eat right. I got to exercise. What's the first steps people can take here? Because that's the trueness, right? I always say, you're not going to lose 100 pounds. The first step is put on your gym shoes, right? So let's talk a little bit about the deprogramming and the resets here.
Sure. So the first thing is to realize that there are 4 areas of your life where you can act, right? And by the way, I'm not saying any of this is necessarily easy. Some parts of it are kind of easy. All right. So we can start with the easy stuff. There are 4 basic areas where you can change your life, and that's nutrition, movement, connection, and rest. In fact, the word Numocore, the name of our company, is an acronym. NU is nutrition, MO is movement, CO is connection, and RE is rest, right?
Love that.
Because I want to make Numocore sexy, right? Why do the pills get all the fancy advertising and the fancy names? No, man, Numocore is freaking awesome. That's what's going to change the world, is nutrition, movement, connection, and rest, because that's what human beings have been fed on, have grown on since the beginning of time, right? So that's what's fundamental. This is what heals. Okay. So these are the 4 areas that are available to you, available to everyone. This is the same thing I tell my patients. Now, nutrition does not begin with your food. Nutrition begins with your mind. And what we're doing right now is nutrition of the mind. Okay. It's hearing what is more true. It is hearing what is possible. It's being involved in the conversations that talk about your possibility and your growth and what is possible. It is not false positivity. It's not toxic positivity. It's not, pasting a smile on my face because I always want to be happy. No, there's a lot of stuff happening in the world that's not about happiness, and we got to be able to deal with that and be realistic. However, it is putting ourselves in the conversations that are uplifting, that are talking about our upward trajectory. This is nutrition of the mind. And that's why I say it's not all hard, because this is easy, right? When you get into the right conversation, it feels good. It feels easy. That curiosity develops. It may not be easy to take that conversation back to your workplace. I get that. But if you start here and start building that feeling of potential, that'll spill over into other categories of your life, right? So that's nutrition. Now, nutrition of the body, we all know, number one, the thing that, probably the only thing that every dietitian, or at least most will agree on, is cut out processed foods.
Yeah.
Right? Cutting out processed foods is something like saying, don't eat stuff that's not food. They're pretty similar statements, right? So eat whole foods and cut out processed foods. Honestly, just that would change the health of the country and the world dramatically, right? Even if you don't agree on, even if you don't agree on plant predominant or plant based or carnivore or this or that, do everything else in moderation, but start with eliminating processed foods and eating whole foods, right? That's nutrition of the body. Now, then there's movement, right? So remember, we're giving you a menu: nutrition, movement, connection, and rest. Movement can be moving your body. Everybody thinks of exercise, but what about range of motion? Stretching your joints out. If in fact the body is a pattern of the mind, then every joint matters. Even this tiny little joint that nobody thinks of, what we call the distal interphalangeal joint. Even moving that matters, because when you flex that, you are flexing your mind also. You're moving an aspect of your mind that isn't moved, but it may be in the subconscious mind, so you may not realize it. Move every joint that you have, including your jaw, including your neck, in its full range of motion every day. It will keep your mind limber as well. Then there's moving your emotion. I've interviewed many people who have healed from diseases just by releasing emotions that have been stagnant for decades. Healed from Crohn's disease after multiple bowel obstructions and surgery and multiple immunosuppressants could not cure the Crohn's disease. Off meds completely, right? Healed from ulcerative colitis, multiple sclerosis. Time after time, especially with autoimmune conditions, I see this, that emotions and the physical structure are related. Why? Because the body is a pattern of the mind. Moving your thoughts. What do you think? What you think is important, right? Josh, you started this podcast because you got some really important thoughts that need to be shared, that the world needs to hear. So what does each person in this audience think? At the very least, write it down for yourself in your journal. This is what I think, and this is really important. Yeah, you're darn right it's important. You have to release that because that's your natural expression. And then movement of the breath, right? Am I always breathing like this with the top half, or am I fully breathing? Moving that breath is critical. So you can see just in that idea of movement, it's way beyond exercise. Connection is threefold. I'll try to sum this up quickly because I know it's a long answer, but connection is threefold. One is connecting with others in relationship, like having this conversation, hanging out with your loved ones, hanging out with friends. Another one is connecting with yourself, the deeper questions. Who am I? Where do I come from? Where am I going? Why am I here? What do I really want? What do I really, really want more than anything else, right? These questions are critical. Giving release to these questions within yourself, again, opens up the body and allows that potential to come in. And finally, maybe the greatest biohack in the world is connecting with the planet, right? Getting outside with bare feet in the grass so you can have that electron flow, what we call grounding nowadays, where we know inflammation decreases in the body because the body is in connection with the electricity of the planet. Eyes on the sky, fresh air in the lungs. Just like you would charge your phone, your body-mind system needs to be charged by plugging directly into the planet, not sitting inside all day, right? So that's connection. And finally, rest, which is sleep. Everybody agrees on sleep. But I'll tell you something that most people don't think about is that sleep is actually a kind of rest. Okay? Sleep is a kind of rest. Rest is not a kind of sleep. Sleep is a kind of rest, which means that what is more important, well, let me not say that. That can be misunderstood. What is as important as sleep is learning how to keep the mind in a restful state, even as it works. So even as you're working, how can you keep the mind in a restful state? That's a big question. That's an exploration. So these four, Josh, and everyone listening, nutrition, movement, connection, and rest in all of its aspects is the menu that's available to you all the time, 24/7. And pick the one that's easy. For everybody, there's something that's easy. Maybe it's just podcasts. So go on a podcast blitz and listen to a bunch of it, not just sitting there at home on your computer, but get outside, do different things, and start listening to podcasts that start to motivate you. That's nutrition of the mind. Once you get that motivation and that energy activation potential comes up, guess what? You will find another area to activate. And slowly, that builds up. You open up, you start to then see at some point that the mind and body are not different. Your light turns on, and then it's a whole different ballgame.
Oof. You nailed it, because it's, for me, it's, well, you took my daily dozen and put it into 4 categories. So I'm like, oh, that just made it so much easier, because it's nutrition of the mind. It's the thing I love. The sleep is a form of rest, but not like, and then, so now you can take the word stress and have it as a positive of rest. The mind is, let's get into parasympathetic tone. Let's get into rest and digest, because we're in the other side of it 70% of the day. We're not meant to do that, right? I always tell people, you can be either in stress or rest. You can't be in both. It's one or the other.
Yeah.
So I love how you said, like, learning the rest is just the rest. These pillars are rest isn't sleep. Rest is being in that space as much as possible, because that's when we regenerate. That's when we heal. That's where the neuroplasticity happens, And so for me, it's a big deal of that is meditation, like moving that. And then these four, right? These four pillars, if you will, of this Numocore principle is really looking at all of those are available to you. The way I hear it, the way I see it is those are the things you can empower yourself to do. None of this is driven by the doctor, right? This is you being your own doctor. You are the one in the driver's seat, not in the passenger seat, which is the flip on our healthcare system, because guess what? You ask the deep questions too, those deep rooted, who am I? What am I here to do? And also, who's in the driver's seat, right? Because if it's the outside world that's going to fix you, right? This is where the, the whole adage of, the midlife crisis things, like I'm going to go buy the thing that makes me happy. No, it doesn't. It makes you feel a certain way for a little period of time, and then you're right back where you are. And so getting that connection with yourself, and I always like this too, is like, what are the connections you need to sever? Where's the pruning? Like the toxic relationships that are not restful for you and your mind, right? So making those choices, those decisions, or the discernment here is 100%, like infallibly 100% up to that person, right? And so it's beautiful. I love it because you're in the control. It's like your choices. You wake up every day and you can make these choices.
And the operative word here is power.
Yeah.
This is a question of power.
Yeah.
And, it's personal power. It's political power. If you look at what's happening in the world, the personal and the political are not separate. We cannot separate these two, right? And in healthcare, there is a power structure. And the way it's set up now is that we, the doctors, know most of it, and we diagnose and treat based on that. But again, the fact is our knowledge base is radically incomplete. And somehow we've been made to believe that knowledge base is what is most important. And it's not. The majority of health doesn't happen based on pills and surgeries. The majority of health happens, or not, based on nutrition, movement, connection, and rest. And that's that 80-20 you were talking about. 80% of the power is with you, with whoever is listening, because nutrition, movement, connection, and rest are that powerful, right? It's like if you have a plant that's not doing well and it's not getting sunlight, and so it's starting to brown, you don't get green paint and start painting the leaves green. That doesn't make sense. We're like, wait a second, it's not getting sunlight, right? Let's give it sunlight. And so, or if it's leaning over,
water or nutrients, right?
Exactly. And that water, that sunlight, that soil, that space is nutrition, movement, connection, and rest. It doesn't make sense to make it look nice, but you're not doing the thing. Now, if the plant is falling over, and so because its anatomy is so disfigured, it cannot suck up the nutrients, then you give it a crutch, right? You splint it so it can get those nutrients. And when it does, you remove the splint so it continues to grow. Similarly, that's the function of a crutch when you have an ankle fracture. But that crutch is every pill. That crutch is every surgery. You use it because the fundamentals of nutrition, movement, connection, and rest are not able to function optimally enough. They can still function in any situation. They can function even 70, 80, 90%, but maybe not 100. So then you use the crutch of the pill. You use the crutch of you use that support, of course. That's why I practice what I practice, because there's a beautiful place for it. But it has to be in context as complementary medicine. Nutrition, movement, connection, and rest, what every wellness practitioner knows, is primary medicine. And that is why wellness practitioners and the science of consciousness is the future and the emerging present of the new health system.
Oof. There's the beautiful answer, right? The door is wide open for people, because that's why it's like, if you get before, like everyone wants to know, like, what's the thing I need? Or, I have this, so what do I get over here on the outside? All of this has shifted that awareness to, before you do any of that, think about this first. Like the medicine you're going to get from where you think you need to be is complementary to the core, like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. So tell people you have a program, right?
Yes. Yes. So
launched, it's coming, it's here. Like tell people like what's going on, because there's duality here of the both, because it's not just the patient being, or the person, right? Let's call them people, of being empowerment, right? We know that blueprint for now, and that's beautiful. But then we have practitioners that also have to shift their awareness to moving in this direction, right?
Yes. So this is an amazing time. And the reason it's an amazing time is because of what I said earlier. Healthcare kind of dropped the ball a little bit. Wellness came along, and now wellness has been going strong for a couple of decades, right? And so we are at this ripe point now where we've understood healthcare. We get healthcare, and we even get wellness. And we know what we need now. We know the next thing to come. And the most beautiful part of that is that it's simply a shift in our understanding and our awareness. And once we understand that wellness practitioners and nutrition, movement, connection, and rest, which frankly is what every wellness practitioner knows in their own way. Like you had your 12 points, for example. Everybody knows this in their own way. I'm not saying something new. I'm just saying it a very particular way and highlighting it to say that this is the new healthcare. This is the new health system. So the program we're offering is to bring all wellness practitioners and healthcare professionals, including doctors, on the same level with our understanding of what health is, with the history of healthcare, with what health is, with how healing happens, with the science behind mind-body connection and the placebo effect, with the science of consciousness, which frankly is about our own nature and the nature of reality. All of these are connected, Josh, because one of the problems is that, like you said, we're talking about disease care and we're talking about treating disease. But the fact is, what about the rest of that continuum? What about human potential? Health is wholeness, right? So what does it mean to be a whole human being? What is that other end of the range, the human potential range? Nobody's asking that question in healthcare, but wellness professionals are. That's why we're meditating. That's why we're teaching meditation. That's why we're talking about yoga. That's why we're talking about seeding the intellect in our deeper nature. That's why we're talking about enlightenment, because enlightenment and being whole and health and treating disease are all part of the same spectrum. That's what's missing today. So what we're doing in this course is we're putting it all on the table. We're connecting it all with the science of consciousness, and we're asking wellness practitioners to join, because we have to bring this community together with healthcare so that we all stand together as part of the emerging new health system. So you can enroll, check out the course details at numocore.com/science. It will go through everything about what we're going to be talking about my background, whatever you want to know. And then join us for this course that's launching in February, because we already have doctors signed up. We have meditations teachers signed up. We have other wellness practitioners signed up. We are creating the new community that is going to be the new health system.
I love it. I can't wait to introduce my army of pharmacists in there too, because we know the way I love it. My vision of the pharmacy of the future is rooted right here. Like, we see patients 10 times more than their doctor because they're coming in every month, right? Yeah. And it's, imagine the person coming into the pharmacy for the medicine and coming out with this.
Yeah.
And having these as hubs, all, because this is the same thing. I love when you leaned in, right? This is a beautiful time.
Yes.
Like, we are at this space of not only our human consciousness moving, because yes, we're only unlocking about 5 to 10% of this thing. Imagine the full potential of humans when we unlock all of it. Holy moly, right? I can't wait. Like, I've been on this journey of wholeness since this summer. I've gone all over the world exploring myself and getting true healing. And it's like, now this is why the podcast is going exploding. It's like, it's happening. They're just coming to me. All these things are happening, right? It's so beautiful, because that's where the energy gets uplifting. It's like, all of this is regenerative. So we're raising our awareness, we're raising our energy, we're raising the human condition to this new humanity. And it's funny because all the ancients predicted it. We're already right here. It's like right here, So I'm excited for that. I can't wait. Like, Numocore.com/science. Like, this is the way, like the way of the new human, the way of the new healthcare, the way of the new planet. Like, it's all there.
It's
And,
all here.
and it's simple.
Yeah, man.
Not easy, but simple, right?
Yeah. Simple, powerful, beautiful.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Love it. Love it. This was such a great conversation. Is there, if you had to give, like, yes, hopefully they'll go to your websites. Practitioners listening, I'm going to be sending this out to my pharmacists because it's simple. It's easy. You can do this. Imagine if, right? Like, our pharmacy industry is collapsing at the same time. We're not getting paid for the medicine.
Yes.
We're literally, like, imagine going to your favorite restaurant and the restaurateur, the guy you've known who's owned the restaurant forever, pays 30% of his people to eat there.
Yeah.
That's what's happening in our system, right? The system's broken. And I love how you said, like, wellness, healthcare had it wrong, but at the same time, or they dropped the ball is what you said. At the same time, people understand that the system now is failing them. This is why wellness, and they're going out. I do want to talk about this before we leave, because you are a guide in the journey for patients, right? So, because yes, we all could do this all your own, but the same Pareto 80-20 principle happens is most people, 20% of people can go online, get this done and do it themselves, right? The DIY approach. But the 80%, we need accountability. We need guides. So I see the pharmacy of the future and the pharmacist and the doctor of the future. We're more like the guide in the journey, right?
Absolutely.
Everybody, Michael Jordan had lots of coaches, right? Yes. So the best of the best, to unlock our full potential, I have many mentors and I invest in myself. This is my biggest investment, is my health and my education, but not around intellect. It's intelligence. Very different word, right?
Yes.
So we're not the dictators of the care. We're the guide in the journey, right? The hero here is the patient. They're the ones doing the work. We're just alongside the journey with them. So I wanted to make sure we were like, doctors aren't going to go away. They're just going to be coaches. They're going to be the guys that are right next to you along the way. And moving through that, I just say, like, a mentor, a coach, a guru, whatever you want to call it is fine for you. And that is like a few steps ahead of them. That's it. They knew they got there a little bit earlier, and now they're here to share. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your system, making it easy to understand, and also making it easy to implement. So amazing. Anoop, I know we'll be good friends soon. This is amazing. I love it. Do you have any last words for our listeners?
The time is now.
Ooh.
The time is now. You know how you've always said, man, I wish healthcare were different. You know how, like, when you had that experience in healthcare, or your loved one had that experience in healthcare, or this happened or that, and you're like, why is it like this? And why is it? And, all the healthcare reform packages that are passed and the bills and all that, like, the time is now. It's here. It's easy to forget about all that because it's like year after year after year. I'm asking you to open up and hear the time is now, actually. It's a shift in our mindset now. It's a shift in action now. It's a shift in understanding now. And when each of us, especially wellness practitioners, when we wake up and realize, yes, the time is now, and take this action and educate ourselves in this process and uplift ourselves so that we are all on the same level. We're speaking with the same degree of rigor and understanding and practicing at that level. In that moment, healthcare is transforming. And that moment is now.
Beautiful. Mic drop. That was awesome. Thank you so much. All right, everyone. I'm inspired. So I hope you are too. Take action, going from thought to action. This was an amazing, beautiful conversation. Anoop, thank you so much, my friend. This is beautiful. Stay well, everyone. Thanks for joining me today on Beyond the Pills. If our mission to deprescribe 10 million unnecessary medications resonates with you, share this episode, subscribe, and leave a review. Whether you're a practitioner or someone ready to reclaim your health, visit rx2wellness.com for free resources to begin your journey. Together, let's go beyond the pills and co-create a world of vibrant health and true healing. Until next time, live better and stay well.